Well, joining us on the news at 10 for more on the rate-setting meeting of the Central Bank of Nigeria is the CEO of Financial Derivatives Company, Mr. Bismack Rawani. It's always good to see you.
Good evening, Nelson.
Well, let's start. In line with analyst consensus, and the MPC considered several factors to arrive at this decision, maintaining key rates at the levels just as they did in January. Did you expect this?
Yeah, even a child would have expected that. The options were few and the actions were pretty much predictable. But the thing is this, that you've got to ask yourself, what does this mean? And what does that mean to the ordinary man? That's you and I. The reality is that this is a pondering time. You see the slide we're showing that the central bank or the committee is pondering on what next steps to do. But three things determine what your economic future is. One is the policy environment. Two is the production and the productivity, which is oil production, power, and all of that. And thirdly are the markets. The markets determine what value they give to you. Those are the three things that determine. And when we looked at the 7 parameters which determine what the economic direction is at this point in time between January and today, 5 of them were pointing upwards, which are green, and 2 of them were down. One, external reserves has gone from 28 billion to 30.3 billion. The exchange rate has appreciated from 498 in January to 445, 430 today. Oil production is up from 1.54 to 1.6, probably 1.8. And inflation is down marginally from 18.55 to 17.7.
Okay, sorry to cut you short. Now that you mentioned inflation, because one would have thought that, we heard that inflation eased for the first time in 15 months. And so, this decision they made, couldn't they have loosened their stance?
No, it's too soon because there are other things. Inflation has various components. And the central bank did say that in spite of a contraction in monetary aggregate, that is, money supply did not increase, we saw a spike in month-on-month inflation to 1.5%, which is not a good sign. But year-on-year inflation, because of base year effects, actually declined. So inflation needs to be decomposed and analyzed further, right? And that is part of the wait-and-see game. But coming to talk about it, power supply went from 3,456 megawatts in January to 3,990. We are up by almost 1,000 megawatts, despite of all the other issues. And the Minister of Power made it very clear yesterday and on Sunday on the program here. Now, what are the negative movements? The Treasury bill rate has gone up from 17.25 to, that's 182 days, to 17.87. That's negative because it's more expensive for the government to borrow and for us to borrow as well. Oil price came down sharply from $55 to $51. And so those are the 5 positive, 2 negative. But what does this mean to you? All of these economic indicators are meaningless if I cannot break it down. What does it mean to the individual on the street? And what it means is this. The exchange rate has gone from 322 in March last year to 498 and has appreciated to 435. That's a positive move. But what's the use of an exchange rate appreciating if you don't have the naira to buy it?
Right.
If you don't have a job to consume, then it's of no use to you. So what we need is inclusive growth and investment in those sectors that can produce. If you don't do that, you're wasting your time.
How realistic do you think is the harmony in terms of policy between the fiscal and monetary authorities resolving this?
Well, first of all, there was consensus, and then there's alignment. But I don't think that is enough. What we need are pragmatic steps, and I'm going to come to that. Rice was 13,500 in March last year. It went up to 19,500 in January 2017, and it's down to 18,000, marginally better, but that's good. Diesel was 130 naira per liter in March 2016, up to 265 naira, and it's now down to. This is one of the few countries where the price of diesel is higher than the price of petrol. Nowhere else does it happen. The external reserves, I've talked about that. Bread was 250 naira in March last year. It's up to 350 naira in 2017, and it's still 350 naira. And gala, which is the ordinary man's meal, it's 50 naira, is now at 70 naira. We expect it to stay at 70 naira. Why has this happened? Now, what has happened is that the Central Bank of Nigeria has put in increased supply of foreign exchange to the market, but also supply at what price? They've effectively devalued the currency by 70 naira. You were getting at 305 if you got it at all, if you're lucky to get it. they're now giving it to you at 375. So 70 naira, you lose, right? Bringing the effective rate to 319, right? When you do the weighted average rates. But at the same time, you have gained on the parallel market from 520, you've gained 100 naira to about 430. Okay? So effectively, what you'll find is that the average exchange rate is about 319. But if you do what they call the purchasing power parity analysis, which measures the prices of goods in Nigeria versus those in the United States, the true value of the naira is about 324.
Okay, I wish we could talk some more. But outlook for the markets and the economy, and aren't there some risks that we could be facing?
Well, the outlook is this: that there will be greater coordination between fiscal and monetary policy. There will be more intervention in sectors like aviation, petroleum, power. The banking system is fragile, so the high NPL, so the central bank is standing by to support the banking system. There was more credit to the government rather than to the private sector, which is bad, which is crowding out. And in all, 2017 is going to be a year of recovery, of economic recovery, but slow and painful, based on the economic recovery and growth plan. And you have to look out for a supplementary budget. Risks are that the Federal Reserve Bank could increase rates again, and they're going to do that two more times this year. Oil price could fall precipitously. We don't expect that to happen, but if it happens, then we're in the doghouse. Oil production could decline because the guys in the Niger Delta get another brainwave. We don't expect that to happen. And then lower our revenues. In all, I think that 2017 is going to be a better year than 2016 because there's momentum, because there's focus, and because, in any case, our options are few and the actions are difficult.
So we should be optimistic.
We should be cautiously optimistic.
All right, many thanks. Always a pleasure having Mr. Bismarck Rwane. He is the CEO of Financial Derivatives Company. Many thanks for coming on the news at 10. Well, let's go over to our Abuja studios where Ivy Clem is standing by for some more stories. Hello, Ivy.
Hello, Millicent. The Controller General of Customs, retired Colonel Hamed Ali, says he will not appear before the Senate tomorrow to defend the payment of retroactive duties by motorists who have no genuine import duties. The customs boss, who has been ordered by the upper legislative chamber to appear in uniform, says his decision is based on a suit filed by an Abuja-based lawyer, Mohammed Ibrahim, seeking a perpetual injunction restraining the National Assembly from compelling the Comptroller General of the Customs from wearing uniform in performance of his duties.
We've received a writ of summons from the court on the issue with the Senate, and that's the issue of uniform. And we also, this morning, when he received that, he communicated, obviously, because our overall chief law officer is the Attorney General, being part of government. He communicated to the Attorney General, so what we are in receipt of the writ of summons. What do we do with regards to this? So the Attorney General wrote a letter. He wrote a similar letter because he is also a defendant in the case. He wrote a letter to the Senate President and copious that based on the summons before the court, all matters relating to the issue are now sub judice. So status quo is ante, which means appearance will not appear because it's before the court. Until the court make pronouncement, the situations remain as it is.
The head of the intelligence unit at the Code of Conduct Bureau, Mr. Samuel Madujemu, has admitted at the Code of Conduct Tribunal that he visited the Lagos properties of Senator Bukola Saraki, who is standing trial for allegations of false declaration of assets and money laundering, along with other investigators to investigate assets of the Senate President, Bukola Saraki, after he gave evidence that he had completed his investigation. The witness, who had earlier evaded questions as to whether he visited number 15A and 15B McDonald Street, Ikoyi, Lagos, after his initial examination in chief, eventually admitted that he had visited the properties in February 2017. Defense counsel says he was testing the witness's memory and credibility as a witness of truth. Our correspondent, Yemisi Ikbaye, has a report.
As the Senate President, Dr. Bukola Saraki, enters the Code of Conduct Tribunal, he immediately makes his way to greet a captivated crowd of supporters and well-wishers. Following on from the adjournment on the 2nd of March, The tribunal continues the federal government's action against the Senate President in respect of allegations of false declaration of assets and money laundering. Defense counsel picks up on its cross-examination of the prosecution witness, Mr. Samuel Madujemu, an investigating officer with the Code of Conduct Bureau. The witness confirms that he has never met the defendant and that a statement was not obtained from him because the asset declaration form was sufficient, as it was sworn under oath. And when asked, is it not remarkable that the defendant was charged to court without being invited once, he answered, it was beyond his capacity to state who should and should not be invited. Proceedings became quite heated, with opposing counsel objecting to the style of defense questioning, insisting that it was not the witness who was on trial. At one point, defense counsel stated he was testing the witness's memory and credibility, and stated he was not telling the truth. Returning again to the issue of ownership of 15A and 15B MacDonald Street, Ikoyi, Lagos, the witness in his affidavit had stated that he had visited the properties prior to the filing of the suit, but now admitted it was in fact in February 2017, but was not forthcoming with the exact date. The witness also eventually admitted that he had taken photographs of the properties on his iPad, but was not sure about his mobile phone, which was not with him, and he would have to check. The tribunal chairman adjourned the trial to the 22nd of March 2017. Defense counsel had this to say.
Now you can see the witness admitting that he was wrong. The affidavit that they swore to, which enabled these charges to be filed, many of the items they were wrong. You can see them admitting it. The case is falling to pieces.
But the prosecution insists.
By our calling, we are to respect litigants and witnesses. So, and it is my duty to protect that witness. It's my witness. So I'm protecting the witness in the course of my objection.
This controversial case continues with even more drama as cross-examination of the prosecution witness enters its fourth day. And no doubt this will not be the last of heated debate between opposing counsel themselves. Yemisi Ipaye, Channels Television News.